Hey, somebody asked how you could have text show up like somebody was saying it in a game. So let's try that. So I'll hit p5play here and create a new project and call it Sayer. I will put it in my Git folder and make this a little bigger. And of course, we're going to initialize this as a Git repo because we like Git. Then I'll go back and open sketch.js, and if I click the p5play icon down here, it'll show me the game so far. That's the familiar game. And let me just hide this stuff now because we're only interested in sketch.js. So what I would like to do, I think, is basically just to just have a function that's called like say something, and it'll be some text like hello and then where I want it to show up. And so I want it to be tied to the ball so I can do the ball X and the ball Y. So let's see how that works. I need to make this function, of course. So function, oh, by the way, let me just save, right? So it's interesting. The ball has gone. I saved, the ball has disappeared. There is a blue screen though. So this is something new with P5. If it crashes, it just kind of leaves you with a white screen and you know something's wrong. With Q5, which is what we're using, it actually crashes right in the middle. So it had a chance to do the background of sky blue. But if we look at this little debug here, you can see it did crash, and it's because say something is not a function. So let's define that function. It's just to show you that, you may have a different situation when you have a problem with your page. It may actually look like it's working. It may get pretty far and then stop. And sometimes it tricks you into thinking it's actually working. So say something, and then let's just say like this is going to be called S for string. That's the string we want it to say. And then we've got an X and a Y. Those are the three parameters that it needs to do its thing, and we can just use the text function, which takes the string and a X and Y position. So let's see. Well, I think it might be behind the ball. Let's nudge it over. Like, there we go. Okay, and also, whoops, up a bit. So it's kind of in the corner there. And I don't know, maybe I'll make it bigger too. So text size for everything on the screen should be more like 20. That looks good. So this seems like it's working. And actually, if I move the ball around, it's going with it. So great. Now, I probably want it to look more like a speech bubble or something. So I could do the rect function, which takes an X position. I know there are a lot of parameters here, so I'm going to actually do it on separate lines. It takes the X position and then the Y position. And then the width is next. I'm following these blue hints here. The width is going to be, actually, what we can do for the width is get the width of this string, because we don't know how wide it should be unless we know what the width of this string is. So we can actually do what do we do? Text width. There's a function called text width, and it takes the string as its parameter. So that's the width, and then we need the height, which I think we could just do the height of the text, which is 20. Some of these things, like these numbers might not be great to hard code in here. It depends on what you're doing. I'm just trying to give you a working example, but by hard coding these numbers, you might be breaking it when things change, like the size of the font or something. And then, I'm going to use these last four parameters, which are how much to round the corners. So I'm going to do 5, 5, 5, 5, and that should round the corners of my rectangle. Okay, so that worked, but it's in the wrong place. So let's try putting it somewhere else. I think, okay, we already know that this is supposed to be plus 30, and this was minus 20 if we're trying to match what we did for the text. Let's see where that puts it. So it's close, but it seems like it needs to be like maybe double the size of the text. And, we've got X, Y, width, height. The height is 20 right now because that's the size of the text. I mean, I could just fudge it, right? Do 26. Yeah, fine. And the width is text width, but we can also add some. So one way you could do it is be like the text width 1.1 times the size of the text width, or 1.2 times the size of the text width. So we could just literally do text width times 1.2. That makes it longer. Maybe like that. And then that means that text has to get nudged over. So there's a lot of just fudging this basically right now. maybe like 36. Yeah, I don't know. That's fine. So 1.3. That looks good. So that works. He's saying hello. You can also draw this a little bit. So one way would just be draw a shape. There are functions in P5 for drawing just like a little triangle would go a long way in making this look like it's a hello, like a speech bubble. But for now, it works, right? And so, this like all of a sudden we've picked up this white trail behind the circle, and I don't know what that is. I'm going to ask the authors of this because I think it's a bug. But whatever, it's working anyway. So, and if I change the text to like hello there, that works too. Maybe this, 1.3 times is not so great. We'll just put like a bit more. So an extra little bit. So, oops. Yeah, it's working. So there we go. And it does follow the guy around. So that's really kind of like a simple example of how you could do it. Just have a function that's, or you could just dump it in here, but that isn't as good as being able to just, anytime you want to say something, calling this function that you've made. Now, I'm going to go a little further in that, I probably don't want it to be there all the time. So there are different ways I could handle that. But I was thinking like maybe if there was another parameter here that's like countdown. So I don't know, maybe this is too clever, but this is like a number. And if the number gets to 0, then it won't say anything. So I don't know, maybe this works, but I'll call it counter here just to make it distinct, but I could call it countdown. And then what I want to do is say if the countdown is greater than 0, then do all this stuff. So the whole function is essentially inside that if countdown is greater than 0. So, okay, something's broken. What's broken? Countdown is not defined. Okay, so there is no countdown. So I need to make a variable up here called countdown. And it starts at 0 by default because I didn't put anything there. So if I hit save, it just won't show anything. But what I want is maybe anytime someone presses the mouse button, I want to set it to a number like 120. That's 120 frames, so about 2 seconds, right? It should show up on the screen. So if I save and click, I've got it, but it'll just stay there because I never actually reduce it. So one trick is that I can reduce it as I'm using it. So I've got the countdown here. It's 120, 120. Every frame it's 120. But I could also tack on a little minus there, and that means it'll actually reduce it every time it encounters this variable. So let's see. 1, 2. There we go. 1, 2. So I don't know. I mean, it's a way, right? Like you just have a number here, and that tells how long it should be able to, how long it should actually show it. Calling the function every time, but only showing something with the function if this countdown number is greater than 0. So yeah, I don't know. It seems to work. Anyway, hope some of that helps.